Welcome back to the channel, and if you're new, welcome. We're out in the little greenhouse today. We got a little bit of chicken stuff to talk about here, basically supplementing chicken food throughout the winter and getting them those nutrients that they usually don't get in the winter time. So we save all of our own wheat. We grow a couple rows of wheat for our chickens and basically for us when we want to make our own bread, but we don't do that very often. Most of it is just for the chickens. So we'll save between 6 to 10 pickle jars worth of wheat, and that takes a lot of winnowing, and we don't have to clean it out as good when we're not using it for ourselves. So it saves me a lot of time just kind of having dirty wheat so the chickens can pick through it themselves. So aside from saving money, we are definitely banking some good nutrients for our chickens throughout the winter by growing our own feed for them. Now, saving money is great, but getting your nutrients to your chickens is even more important throughout the winter because you can continually get eggs. They have enough lighting and have enough nutrients basically. So as long as they got those two requirements, you can get eggs throughout the winter time and not have a dull lull in your chicken's egg laying. So once these wheat berries start to break down inside and start germinating, all of that meat breaks down by the metabolism or the catabolism of the starches that are actually inside that make up the meat of this. Now, the actual enzyme that starts this process during germination is called alpha amylase, and this kicks off at the beginning of germination, so all of the starches start to break down. These starches break down to 1, 2, and 3 monomer long molecules called glucose, maltose, and maltreose. Now, I've covered all this before with chicken feed and supplementing feed in the wintertime, but I wanted to come back and touch up on this again because I have a few different methods of getting nutrients to my chickens. Now, all of these wheat berries, I've got tons and tons of wheat berries all bottled up here. Now, we are fermenting these ones. We'll come out here and we'll crack this jar open every other day or so, maybe every day if it's warmer out here. We've got 3 that are actually sitting in water, and then the rest are just loaded, ready to start fermenting. So we'll start 3, and then we'll start 3 more a few days later, so on and so forth. So we've always got some type of fermented grains for our chickens coming out. So getting all this green grass growing in the greenhouse is pretty cool, and this only requires about 40 to 42 degrees, and this is one of the crops that will sprout in complete darkness. You can cover this, leave it in a dark corner. As long as it's warm enough and it has some moisture, these will sprout and they will start to grow. These are catching sunlight down here, but I've had them on our compost heater. Our compost heater has been pushing water through here, and we're catching all of the heat on all of these bricks. These bricks are physically warm. That is awesome. So we've got some fermenting, mashed up, mixed up multi-grain, all types of stuff in there. A little bit of chicken feed, basically what's in this jar, and then we mix our own wheat in there. So we've got like a mash, we've got our fermented feed, and then we've got this little chicken treat. So this is actually a whole bunch of lard or bacon grease or whatever type of animal fat that you have laying around. So we'll take this and we will fill our little cup or a tray up, and then we'll pour our grease over it, throw it in the freezer, and then we've got bite-sized chunks. These chickens can come out, and it keeps them busy, keeps them happy, and it gets those fats and proteins in the winter time. This is a great way to get the extra protein and nutrients to your chickens. Sprouting the grains is another great way, and the chicken's natural forage is going to be grass and roots and fodder like this. So this is basically the best thing for them, and we just kind of do it in little plugs like that so we can just kind of pull them out. You got to kind of rip them out a little bit. All them roots like to get underneath there, but this is enough for our chickens to have as a snack today, and then we can give them some different type of grains tomorrow along with their feed. And I'm always moving materials and throwing out compost into their greenhouse when I'm not using it for compost heat. So I try and fill their greenhouse up so they have a nice ample supply of warm compost. That way the whole greenhouse stays warm even on a cold day, and they get to pick that apart, find pill bugs, worms, all types of good stuff for them. And then we've got all these supplements that we like to feed them, and we're pairing this with our compost heating right now, and this has been about a month in the making. We've had this compost heater up for about a month, and it's definitely cooling off. We're only pushing about 60-70 degrees out of here. The water's only about 60-70 degrees. This is a perfect example of why we use wood chips on our large Jampane compost heating, and why we're going to use wood chips on this small Jampane pile, because all of the organic matter that we used from our garden and yard. We had tons of material, got it all hot, and within a month it dropped in size by about a half. We've got like a little shell of the compost pile we had out there, so I'm going to break all that up and throw about a truckload of wood chips in there, inoculate it with nitrogen, and we've still got all our leaf bags around our little pile down here, so I can tarp that in. And then we've got 2 John Payne compost heating systems, one very minimal system and one large and productive system. The length of burn definitely depends on the freshness of your material, the material used, and the nitrogen to carbon content of the material that you're composting. So we made it a whole month heating this greenhouse with just yard waste alone. So once we get our wood chips down here, we're ready to go for the rest of winter. So I want to thank everyone for watching and checking out some tips to feed your chickens and get some extra nutrients in winter here. And stay tuned for updates from our large John Payne heating system, as there's a lot to cover with all of the moving parts down there and getting everything situated and running properly.